All right. Hello. Welcome to our finale of Throne of Glass, the live show discussion. If you are just popping in for, just seeing this video, this is definitely going to be a spoilery discussion. We're talking all things Kingdom of Ash with Maas. But we will also be talking spoilers for the rest of the series. So obviously this is the finale. I feel like that's kind of a given, but if you're here for some reason and you haven't read the series, go read it. It's my favorite series of all time. It's amazing, but don't spoil yourself. So if you're here and you haven't read this yet, leave.
Yes.
All right. So I'm sure some of you are going to be like, who is this beautiful, gorgeous girl? What is going on? So Christina is in a bit of a reading slump right now. She's really struggling. So we originally pushed the Kingdom of Ash live shows to kind of help maybe see if she could read it in that time, and it just wasn't in the cards for her this time around. But instead of postponing it, I have my very good friend Rachel joining me to discuss. So Rachel, I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Rachel. My channel is Raven-Haired Reader. You guys have probably seen me in the chat of all of Hannah and Christina's live shows because I'm always here. I kind of ended up inadvertently joining their read-along because I finished my Throne of Glass reread at the same time that Hannah did. So yeah, I'm very excited. This is the first time I've reread the series, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, so this isn't Rachel's first time reading it, so I am kind of sad that we don't get to see Christina's reactions and stuff. Oh, she's here. Look.
Yeah,
hi, Christina. You need to leave though, hun. You gotta go.
You need to get out of here, but you need
can't
to
see any spoilers.
You need to give us your own live show, honestly, of your thoughts on Kingdom of Ash, Christina. I'm so curious.
We love you. I know. I really want to know. I really want to know her reactions to it.
Yeah.
I know. I'm so sad too, but you can't force this one. Like if you're not in the mood for it, you don't want that to affect. Yeah. So you'll be fine. We'll maybe do like a mini Christina's mini reactions or something like in a vlog, or just do like an Instagram live or something, because I do want to know what the final thoughts are. Since it's her first time.
I want to see it.
There you go. We'll do a whole live show. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, so again, if this is maybe your first time popping in for the read along, massive spoilers ahead. I cannot make that clear enough. But I'll basically just be going through like the main plot points of Kingdom of Ash, and we'll just kind of discuss, give our reactions. I'm so excited.
Me too. I love this book so much. It's so good.
Okay, so usually I start with what is your rating, because Christina's not read them before, but obviously since this is a reread for us, I gave it 5 stars.
I also gave it 5 stars.
I mean,
anything less, honestly. Like, it's an incredible finale to my favorite series as well. So
yeah, it's. I mean, Rachel and I, we kind of talked about this when we both had finished it. Like, I finished this last night, and did you finish it?
Like yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, like.
Yeah. But then
close together. And so of course we were messaging and being like, oh, it's just like so hard to let the characters go after this. Yes. Like after everything we've been through.
Yeah, it's a journey, so and emotional. Hannah and I were sending each other voice notes of crying. But truly, like, it's so, you feel almost exhausted after you finish this, because you, not only is this book just like a chunker and so much happens, but you look back on the series as a whole and be like, wow, look at where we started, look at where we are now. Yeah. And I'm dead inside now. So yeah.
And it's like, it's such a long series too. Like, this is the 8th book, and you go through so much with these characters, and you grow with them too, like from where they started, from Selena being like an assassin apprentice, basically, like, yes, a badass assassin, but to where she gets to in this and her character development, it's just, like, it's just incredible. That's why this is my favorite series. Just the growth of everything, the character growth, the development of the story, of the world, of the magic, like thinking back to like Assassin's Blade when there's like no magic.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the connections too that this series has from beginning to end are so satisfying. And like that's also why I love the series so much, because it's like so well thought out, I think, all of the plot lines and the character growth and where they end up. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. All right, another 5 stars, of course. Yes. I mean, like, I see some people giving this like 2 stars, and I'm like, did we read the same book? Like, how could you possibly?
God, it's like, even just like, I mean, yeah, I can't even imagine anything lower than a 5-star, but I'm just like, give it its due, because it's the finale too. Like, it's the ending. You have to kind of give it some brownie points for that, because it wraps up, I think, really, really nicely. Ugh.
Yeah. And like, this was my 3rd time reading this one. It was like my 5th time reading through the series as a whole, but because I would reread them before the next book would come out. So once this one, the finale, like, this is only the third time, but it still hits me like it still hits me like a freight train. Like, I finished it, and honestly, I just sat there for a second, like staring off into space, like just letting everything hit me. Ugh. Anyways, sorry, I could go on and on about how much this story makes me feel.
It was funny because you've said like, oh yeah, I've reread the series like 5 times, but I've only read this like 3. And so I thought that you like weren't picking this one up when you were doing your reread. And I was like, that's so not Hannah to not like the completionist with the series, but like, okay. But you were like rereading it as it was coming out. Which,
as the books would come out, I would reread the whole thing, because I wasn't going to be like looking at recaps.
Yeah.
Why is she not reading the finale?
It's so weird, but okay. Like, all right. Yeah.
It's because I would reread the whole series as they would get released. But
no, that makes sense.
Put off reading this one because I didn't want it to be over. Yeah, I have this thing where like, I don't want it to end, but I'm also not the type of person to like try to drag it out so I can savor it. I'm just a binge reader to my core.
Yeah. It's also so long that I just felt like, I'm like, okay, I got to keep up my pace with this book, because I think if you wait too long, it's like, okay, this is getting really long and I just got to get there. So
also with the way this one starts, so we'll dive in. My first note is literally the opening chapters equal pure pain.
Terrible. It's like she just twists the knife immediately. She's like, let's go. This is going to be bad.
So this, my goodness. Okay, so we leave off in Empire of Storms with Aelin being captured by Maeve. She was tortured on the beach, and then Rowan comes after she's been like taken away and is like, "Where's my wife? Where's Aelin?"
Where's my wife? The iconic line. So painful. Oh
my God. And so then like, we know, like, we did the tandem read. So we kind of were able to stick with like the timeline. But we know starting this book, it's going to be awful. Like, Aelin is captured. There's not really a good way out of this either. Like, it's not like a quick fix. So yeah, that's another reason why I was like, I can't slow down, because I have to push past this pain, because it's like 250 pages.
That's the thing, is it's weird because like that the first section of this book, when she is like captured by Maeve, is terrible. I mean, it's great. Like, I love it, but it's terrible. Like, and on my reread, when I first read it, I felt sick reading it. And I did again. I think she's so good at like making you feel that pain that Aelin feels.
Visceral feelings.
Dread. Like, I felt dread while I was reading it. And so, yeah, it sounds weird because I love the book, but I hate the beginning of this book because it's just so hard to read. So yeah. I need to just like punch through that and get to the happier times. So
I hate it and I love it because like I'm a bit of a masochist. So I'm like, twist the blade, Sarah, kill me with your words.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, the 2 first chapters, they're the very short ones, called The Prince and the Princess.
Yeah.
So the first one, the prince, where he's like, I will find you, and I'm like, oh, damn it.
I love that
you get
princess. I think that's cute.
Yep. And then you get Aelin, the princess, and over she's saying, once upon a time in a land long since burned to ash, there lived a young princess who loved her kingdom. And like, that's a throwback to Heir of Fire, when she was telling Rowan like her whole story and like who she is and how they walked that dark path into the light together.
Yeah.
Oh, and like that line, that iconic "Once Upon a Time" like line is mentioned several times throughout Kingdom of Ash too, and every single time I like teared up.
No, yeah, I forgot how often it is mentioned, and she like it's kind of her mantra. It's similar to the like, my name is Aelin Galathinius, and I will not be afraid. You know, like it's kind of similar to that. But yeah, every time she says it, I'm just like, oh my god, come on.
My god, yeah. So we get very in depth, like we were saying. It makes us like viscerally sick to our stomachs reading about Aelin's torture, because it really does go into like, I mean, enough detail. It wasn't like overly gory, but enough that I'm like, I actually like felt sick having to read this. Like this character that I'm so attached to.
Mm-hmm.
And then Aelin and Fenris's secret code with their blinks.
God.
Kills
Fenris,
me.
I forgot how much I mean, I loved him, but I just forgot how vital he is to Aelin as a character, as her growth. Like and I just love the relationship that comes out of this horrible situation between them.
Yeah.
And yeah, the little like blinking code to check if each other is okay, if they're not okay. I think that was a really nice touch, like to have that relationship in it, because I don't know how Aelin would have survived without him, honestly, like mentally.
Yeah.
I mean, she
like
broke mentally anyway, but
yeah. They really like had each other and held on to each other throughout that. But just that secret code, and then they use it like for the rest of the book, those two do. And like Fenris doesn't play like a huge role in the prior books.
Right.
And so like to see him in this and see that connection that they made from that, I'm just like,
yeah,
I love Fenris.
I love Fenris. Oh gosh, he's such a sweet guy, and I'm really glad that he was there for Aelin and she was there for him.
Yeah, and they like went through so much together. Like the scene where Maeve basically makes Fenris's twin brother Connell kill himself as punishment for Fenris.
Yeah.
Oh, that scene is terrible. And then that's like one of the scenes too where Aelin like tries to attack Maeve and she sees the black blood and she's like, was that a hallucination?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that kind of like, that is such a significant, I feel like, turning point for Aelin when she sees that. And then I think like Maeve's face for a second is kind of like, oh, when she does that, then like very quickly turns it back off and gets back to villain. But yeah.
And then Rachel, you and I talked about this, but we have this scene. Let me try to flip to it. Like one of the most powerful scenes in the series.
Okay.
So it starts on page 118, and it's where Aelin is like really starting to lose hope here. I can't remember now. Is it the part where Maeve tells Aelin like nobody's coming for you? Rowan was seen in Terrasen, like you're stuck here.
Yeah, it was like, right. It was right after that. It was like, okay, she doesn't like, she's starting to really give up hope about
she's Rowan. Starting to really think like this is it, like she's just gonna be here forever. And then Aelin's mom like comes, and is like, Fireheart, why do you cry? And you must be brave a little while longer, my Fireheart. And she says, you do not yield. And that like sticks with Aelin, and she's like, you do not yield. You do not yield. I know. And the way that she's like beating on the iron coffin.
I can imagine that so vividly. Yes. I literally have, okay, you guys can't see them, but
I know.
have goosebumps right now. I'm not kidding at all. That is such a powerful scene. And I can like see that so clearly in my mind. And I can feel Aelin like get this fire under her belly a little bit. And I'm just, oh my God, that scene.
And you can just picture her trapped in this iron coffin that she can like barely move around in,
like no range of motion,
beating on the roof. Like, oh my God, it's just such a powerful moment. Like,
and she leaves the top of the lid had been warped.
Yeah, and like Cairn gets like freaked out. She hears like him staggering into something. Like she like freaked him out so bad that he like fell over. Yeah. And it's like, give me the Gloriella.
Yeah, get me that Gloriella. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like
Just that over and over, she pounded against the lid over and over. That song of fire and darkness flared through her, out of her, into the world. You do not yield. Like,
oh my God.
just like, I was like, this is my Aelin. Like, she can't give
Literally.
up. She can't lose this fire. Like, this is it. And it really, like, shows how powerful she is. Not
Yes.
just like with her magic, but as a person.
Oh yeah, totally.
Too. Like,
Totally.
it's just such a powerful moment.
Do you have a "You Do Not Yield" tattoo? Because I know you have some Throne of Glass tattoos.
I don't. I have a fire heart.
Oh, okay,
tattoo.
gotcha. Okay.
I kind of. That's a good tattoo idea.
It's a good one, and I'm just like, oh, I wonder if Hannah has that. Yeah,
I should get that.
it's a really good line. I really like it.
It's such a good line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's the moment where Rowan feels it. Like, everybody feels that surge of power from her.
Yep.
And I love too that Elite is the one that's like, we need to go to Doranel, and everyone's like, it's not reasonable, it's not worth it. And so they start to leave, and then we get that surge of power, and they're all like, she's in Doranel.
Yeah, no, thank God. I love Elite so much. She's so clever, and like, thank God she
so
said
smart.
that, like, I appreciate her involvement. And yeah, we talked about this yesterday, but I just like these next coming scenes with Elite and how she, really helps them get to Aelin.
Yeah, she's just so smart. Like, the way that she is so cunning, like, she like played the jilted lover to find out where Cairn is, because wherever Cairn is, that's where Aelin is. And she found out that Maeve isn't there because of this trap that they set for her. And then they go, and we get the big rescue scene. We're gonna go ahead and talk about Aelin's escape right away, since we're right there anyways. But we do switch around, obviously, in the point of views.
Yeah.
But yeah, Aelin's escape. So Fenris, she thinks that Maeve is getting her a Wordstone collar, and Aelin's like, I'd rather die. And so she's gonna make her big escape, and like almost kind of like paralleling her and Dovier.
Yes.
Run for escape.
Oh my God, that's such a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that. But she's like, I would rather be dead. So like, I'm just gonna try, because I will basically be dead after this anyway. So
because she'd rather that than be turned into the weapon that Maeve wants her to be. And so Fenris ends up breaking the blood oath, which is like impossible. So just like the fact that he was able to do that to help save her. And then she escapes, but she's still got on the iron mask and the gauntlets on her hands, which is one of the most tragic scenes ever.
Yeah.
She finally finds them, right? Like, she's making this like mad dash into the woods. She's dodging arrows, and she finally gets out, and Rowan is like checking her over, and then he gets, he's like, that's it, I'm fucking shit up, and goes after Cairn. And then she's just like sitting in the woods, like on her hands and knees, like screaming, take it off.
Yeah, that also was a really painful scene. Just her saying, take it off, over and over again. And at first they couldn't figure out how to get it off. And it's just like, oh my God, like, she's free, but then she's kind of not, because she still has this on her face. And I also just love that she did end up escaping, like, on her own. Like,
on her own,
but I do, and not that I would have had a problem if Rowan and Lorcan had been the ones to like get her, but I love that she is still so strong, and she's like that cunning Selena and the powerful Aelin, and she saved herself. Like, I really like that.
Right. I like that she didn't need anybody else. Like, I mean, she did need other people, but it's like she fought for herself. She wasn't just the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like that too.
Yeah.
And then of course we get Aelin offering Fenris the blood oath to save his life. That part is so powerful too.
Yes.
So other points of view that we got. So we have Manon finding the Kraken witches to try to like rally them, right? We got the big reveal that she's the Kraken queen, and like the queen of the witches basically. And so she's trying to earn their trust, because they know like she's killed so many of them off. She killed her own sister.
Right.
And I kind of love that she did that, because you really see her humanity.
Yes.
Because she like constantly regrets it. Like, she still has the piece of, her sister's cloak that she uses to tie her braid and stuff. Like, you really see like how much she regrets that, versus her just being like, I have no heart.
Yeah, no, I think Manon, she's one of the more interesting characters in this series because she has so much growth. Like when we meet her in Air of Fire, she is just like a robot, basically. You know, she's just like, I'm this cold-blooded killer and I don't care about anything. And we see so much change, like throughout the other books too. But like here, we are really seeing the payoff of her character growth.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love for her to have like her own series, like
a spin-off of
a spin-off.
Please.
I would read it.
Yep.
Yeah, I love Manon.
Mm-hmm.
We also get a Nox sighting. So if you don't remember, Nox is from Throne of Glass. He was one of the competitors in the competition for the King's Champion or whatever. The one that Selena like dove off the roof to save, you know, that epic scene. I love that Sarah brought him back, even for just like a minor role. Because she wasn't originally intending to bring him back.
Oh, really?
But people kept like saying, like, when are we gonna see Nox? Like he escaped, like he's gotta come back. And so she was like, all right.
Yeah, no, I'm such a like, I love all the little connections, the bringing people back. So I'm like, yeah, do it, throw Nox in. Like, I love it. Yeah,
even though it was just like a, you know, quick, short little like appearance, he didn't play like a major role in this book at all. It was just, it's so fun to see like those old characters come back. My next note is on page 293, Aedion being an absolute asshat. So
yeah, I have feelings on Aedion, and he
frustrated me so much in this book. Like, I know that he's upset that Lysandra made this like bargain or deal or whatever with Aelin, that she would pretend to be her and whatever. Like, I get why he's upset by that, but like, honey.
I get it. I understand not being involved, but Aedion is also just so, he would do anything for Aelin. He is 100% like he would die in a second for her. He would do anything. And I can understand being like, whoa, I'm thrown off by this plan. But him not realizing that, like, no, Aelin, you know, and Lysandra, they planned this and talked about this. And like, it's just I think his reaction is very outsized. And I really, really don't like it.
Right. I think he overreacted to that.
Majorly. Yeah. Majorly. And he holds on to it for so long. And I'm just like, shut up, Aedion. God.
Yeah. And is it this part? Yeah, where he kicks her out into the snow. Like, she spends all this time, one, pretending to be Aelin, which is a lot in itself, like, to try to hold up that ruse. But then she's also, like, shape-shifting into different things to help during the battles.
Yeah.
And she comes to him or whatever, and then he's like, your plan is bullshit. Like, just absolutely, like, destroys her feelings and is just like, get out, and just kicks her out into the snow.
Yeah. This is why, like, for me, so I feel like Lysandra does not get enough love from the fandom. She's behind Aelin. She is my favorite character, my second favorite character, because she does so much, and she literally throws her body into battle constantly, and is constantly shape-shifting to adapt to what people need from her, and she's always happy to do it. She was willing to do this crazy thing of
whatever it took,
to be the queen of this. Like, I love Lysandra so much, and it just sucks.
And I love it when she puts him in his place again, where he's like begging her, like, please don't leave or whatever, later in the book. And she was like, I was raised as a whore. I had to be on my knees for men. I've been treated like shit all my life, but I've never felt as bad as when you threw me out into the snow, and I don't deserve that.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's such a queen for that. Like,
no, yeah, I love that. And yeah, she has just like this life experience that has toughened her up and made her who she is. And then Aedion was supposed to be this like solace for her, and then he still disappoints her and acts like the men that I just God, you know.
He got his alpha feelings hurt. He was just being such a little bitch about it. It's like,
it was like,
think of it.
You realize what's happening? We're in war.
Right. Like, if you think of it critically, like, she wasn't doing it to piss you off. Like, this is bigger than your feelings, guy. Let it go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, what would they have done in that situation?
Yeah. I feel like he probably would have suggested it on his own. Like,
On his own.
eventually, he probably would have been like, you know, because he would do anything for Aelin. And yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we get Aedion. I mean, he's kind of a dick to her for like most of the book.
Yep.
And then eventually gets over himself and they make up and everything. But like,
Yep.
he was irritating in this book. And I love Aedion, especially in like Empire of Storms, where he's got like this bro thing going with Rowan, but he really bothered me in this one.
Yeah, kind of went out a little bit on a sour note for me, but I still do like his character.
Yeah. I love that all the women are able to stand up for themselves. That's one of my favorite things about Sarah's books, is that like the female empowerment and how they don't rely on the men. Like it's
like a common thread throughout all of her books that
yep.
women are always going to be able to like handle their own stuff, and the men are there if they need
every them. Female character in here is a boss ass bitch. Like every single one, even Maeve, like even who is a terrible terrible villain.
Oh my god, Maeve. Yeah, she's a I mean, she's a good villain. She might be, I think, SJM's best villain in my opinion. But yeah.
She's well done.
Yeah.
But like literally even Kaltain, like who we don't like when we meet, ends up being like epic.
Oh my god, I love Kaltain by the end of her storyline. Like and that was such a cool choice for SJM to do that. And she's a great character.
Yeah. And like we start off in the series like with Kaltain and with Lysandra being kind of like not our favorite. Because of how they are with Aelin and how they bicker and like the girl hate things. But like I love that she evolved that into being like, okay, well now Lysandra is one of Aelin's best friends. And Kaltain ended up saving a lead who is like an icon.
Yes. Yeah.
I love all the girlies.
Girl power.
Okay, so we get Aelin's thought process after her rescue, trying to convince herself that that's real. Oh, that part is heartbreaking, where she's like, this is actually happening, or is this like another thing that Maeve did? Aelin and Rowan get their wedding bands.
I know.
From that trove.
I loved it because like Aelin is in such a bad place, but like she still does that. And I remember when I read this for the first time, I was kind of like, are they going to be able to get their relationship back on track? You know, because she's just so, and like understandably so, she's so just been through so much. But I love that she's like trying for him, you know, and she does that cute little thing. And she's like, oh, humans do this and, you know, everything. Like, really sweet. Yeah.
I like that part too. The one thing though that I like that Sarah J. Maas did was that she didn't just do like, oh, once she escaped her torture, like she's fine. You get so many scenes of like her nightmares, her thought process of like being back in that dark place. And then also you get like her, what am I trying to say? Like where she keeps saying like, I'm so tired, like I want this to be done, that like super depression, like I'm tired of this, like I can't fight anymore. You still get that. And then you get that scene where she's like, did you even believe all of the winking and the swaggering? Because I'm really trying to pretend like,
Yeah, I think SJM does, I think she does like mental health representation really well. And just like healing journeys really well in all of her, like I think that's one of the best things that she is best at. And I like that it's not like, oh, she's rescued and everything is okay, because then it's like, well, then what did we go through all of that for, you know?
Right.
So and it continues on for a long time in this book. Like
I mean like it really I like that it wasn't just like okay, I'm all fixed now, I'm all better, I'm not getting tortured, so everything's fine. Like you still see how much it affects her, and like is even still affecting her all the way up to the end of the book. We get the Aelin Chaol reunion. And then we get the real reunion that we wanted.
About
Aelin Irene reunion.
Oh my god, I love it. I teared up at this part. I think it's just it's amazing, and I love that connection. And this, I think, is reading the Assassin's Blade first makes this so much more payoff because it's the first book to the last book. Like, how cool is that? You know? Oh my god, I love it so much.
I love it so much. And then like the where Aelin's like, I read towers, like doesn't even hesitate, just instantly like, I remember you.
Yes. And I love the line, and I forget if it's here or if it's later in the book, but it's not like a big spoiler or anything. But when I think Irene says to Aelin, like, we're a long way from Inish. Yeah. I just love that she acknowledges that and is just like,
I got goosebumps.
Girl, like, look at what we've been through, you know, like, oh, I love it. Yeah.
I love that. And just like the Irene giving her the note and saying like, I became like the healer on highs, the heir apparent to the healer on high. I taught all these women self-defense, like doing all of that.
Yeah. Oh, so good. I love it so much. And her giving the note like to Aelin, and I just think that that's really powerful and cool. And I just love it.
Yeah. It's just also one of those things where it's like fate plays a big role in Sarah's books. And so like seeing that fate, because I remember Kale says it in Tower of Dawn, where he's like, you know, this girl, you know, felt the pull to reach out, and she decided to do that and didn't realize like what an impact that would have at the time. That it like had to be fate's workings. Like he's able to walk now. He met his wife because of her, because she was able to save this one girl. There's like, look at what came of it.
The series. Yeah.
Oh, and then I'm jumping ahead here, but like how Irene is like the one to defeat everything. Like
low key kind of like
saves the world.
She was kind of the one. I mean, they're all involved, and Aelin obviously does what she does, but like Irene is kind of the hero of the story, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. Okay, so we get Lysandra pretending to be Aelin during the battle, because all of these soldiers are starting to leave their post. They're giving up hope because the queen is nowhere to be found. And so Lysandra shifts to look like Aelin, and so everybody's like, to the queen, and it's just like, and she has no firepower, no like real battle skills, honestly. Like she has very minimal training in that.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's doing that because she knows that it will be a defeat if she doesn't.
Yeah, really tough for Lysandra.
Yeah. We get Manon's battle with the Iron Teeth matrons, and how she finally kills the Yellow Legs matron.
Oh my god.
Die, bitch.
God. Yeah. I loved that.
Oh, I missed this comment. Agree, it's more powerful, also more realistic. I'm sure no one would just bounce back from that. Yeah. But yeah, that scene is like a turning point for Manon too, because the Kraken witches kind of see like, hey, she means business. Like she's not trying to fool us. Like she's actually willing to fight against it and stuff. And that is that the scene? I might be jumping ahead again, where she gets the crown back.
I think it is. Yeah.
I think it is, because the Yellow Legs matron is the one wearing the crown, like to come to battle, and she's like, that's not your crown, and she goes and cuts her freaking head off.
Yes. Yeah.
And then it's like made of starlight or something, and it like shimmers when she puts it on her head.
I love that image. Like I want to see that in real life. Like it sounds beautiful.
Yeah. And then when she like takes it off and is gonna give it to Glennis, the great grandmother, and it dims, and Glennis is like, I don't think it's mine.
Yes.
I love that. So epic.
Yep.
And then we get the battle at Aniel. So one of the major battles in Kingdom of Ash, where all the Rukin are there, Morath is coming to like, you know, fuck shit up, and then the dam is like breaking and it's gonna wipe out this whole valley. It's such an epic battle too. And then the scene with Aelin and Lorcan.
So I'm like, okay, let's talk about the Aelin and Lorcan scene, because that is one of my favorite scenes in the book. And it's once again woman rescuing the man. Like I love that. And like Aelin, she's come so far, you know.
Yep. And like for these first 500 pages, right, Aelin is like silent treatment,
Yep.
just ripping into Lorcan like, you suck, I hate you. And then she starts, obviously, you know, that she loves him, and she like straight up tells him too, like, how could you love a monster? And he was like,
Yeah, she's
what are you
like, I'm
saying?
trying
And
to
she's like,
figure
I'm
out
trying
the
to.
right one. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But then she's looking around and she's like, where's Lorcan? And they're like,
Okay, I have a bone to pick with everyone else. Like, really, you guys, like, I get it, but also, you guys aren't gonna go try to save Lorcan. Really? Like, I get it, but I'm also like, come
right.
on.
The
He's
human girl with a broken, fucked up ankle is like, I've got
literally,
this. And all of the 500-year-old warriors are like,
they're like,
that
nothing we can
sucks.
do. Yeah. They're like, sucks for Lorcan, I guess. And I'm like, what? Like, no one is gonna go out there, really? Like, yeah,
I
I was
think
like,
they mention
characters. I was like, come on. Like, would you, if that was Rowan, would you guys just be like, oh, you know,
right.
go. Yeah.
It's also, it's kind of funny because like nobody freaking likes Lorcan, so they're like,
I
well,
know.
oh well.
I know, God, but I'm still just like, come on. And yeah, it's
I think they mention that like they're coming up with a plan trying to go get him, and then somebody's, or Hassar I think, is like, don't bother, she's already beat you to it. And they're like, what?
yeah.
But that part where she steals Farasha, Kael's horse, the like Hellas's horse, and
Yep.
I love too that Farasha is like, as a horse, is like not tameable, but when
Yeah.
a lead needed her, she was like the best horse ever.
Oh yeah,
Like
totally. Like
hopping through the battlefields, fast as can be. Like, I
yeah.
love it. I have a scene where they're like looking down at a lead, like watching her go through this battlefield. And it says, from this distance, Rowan could make out her mouth moving, shouting one word, one name, over and over, Lorcan. And I put, my annotation is, I would die for a lead.
Literally, she's
Like,
amazing. And
she's
like,
amazing.
just the fact that she's, you know, doesn't have any powers, like she's like braver than everyone else, you know? I'm just like,
Yes.
she is the most vulnerable person in this group of people, and she risks it all to save Lorcan.
Yep. Yeah, I was on the edge of my seat too. And like the fact that she finds him and he's like about to die, like blooded, his back is sliced open, and she's like, I'm not leaving you here.
Yeah.
Get on the fucking horse.
Oh yeah, she's like mad at him. She's like, get on the, I came out here, get on the damn horse.
Yeah.
We're doing this. Yeah, I love it
so much. And then I love the fly for Rasha. Like, I just love that line.
Yes. And I love too that she basically, because he's, you know, kind of starts talking that he's like, we're not going to make it. I weigh too much. I should probably just fall off the horse and save you, like save yourself. And she, I forget exactly how she does it, but she basically holds on to him and is like, no, if you jump off, I'm going with you. So good luck. Yeah. Like,
I love that. She like clings onto him. So if he tries to like eat himself off, she's like, I'll go with you then. Like, I'm not, you're going to have to stay on, bud.
All the way out there for you to just, no, we're not doing this. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then of course, so they make it to the gate. Like that scene, oh my god, just like I can just picture this horse jumping over bodies on this battlefield, racing to get back to the gate before the dam bursts.
Yes.
And then Aelin gets brought out. So it's mentioned several times before this point how she's like looking far off or like not focused on certain things. She hasn't used an ounce of power. Not an ember, not a flame. Like, it's mentioned so many times. And at first you're thinking it's from the PTSD of being tortured.
Right.
Being in those irons, like may have made her hate her power, something like that. And this is the point when you realize that it had nothing to do with any of that. She was diving into the well of her power to annihilate Maeve.
Yep.
And this whole scene, literally, I put like wow, I think like 5 times, like wow, 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 wow.
I forgot about this. I forgot about this, that this happened, because I thought too, I was like, oh yeah, she's just got PTSD. She's like, I can't even focus on trying to, you know, use my powers right now. Yeah. No, I think it's so cool. But it's also kind of like, oh, you know, I wish she didn't have to use it then. But yeah.
Yeah, same. I get it. It's a very Aelin thing to do. Like, she puts, you know, the army's life above and this town's life above her own vengeance. Like, it's very Aelin.
Yep.
I just love when Rowan and like how they all react to the fact that she's been tunneling into her power for 3 months. Like just the fact that he's like 3 months, Rowan breathed. The others still. 3 months, he said again, his knees wobbling. She's been making the descent into her power for 3 months.
Yeah.
And like I have chills
like
again, like, oh my god. It's like holy gods, holy rutting gods.
Yeah, that's like completely unheard of.
Yeah. This is one of those things where I love the extent of her power. I love that she's like a fucking god in this world.
Yeah.
Like the amount of power she has. I love it. Yeah.
Yes.
So again, jumping ahead, but that she's lost most of her powers. That is like my one thing that I don't like about this.
Yes.
Is like I just loved so much that she was such a badass through this whole series and how much power she had and how scared everybody was of her. Like, I love that.
Yeah. No, when we get to that, we can kind of touch on that.
We'll talk on it more. But this is one of those two where it's like it just showcases how much power she has.
Yep.
And it says here, as Aelin opened her hand toward it, fire erupted, cobalt fire, the raging soul of a flame. Oh, I love it. My God.
Oh, like it's such powerful imagery too. I love that it's blue and like I think it's so cool. Yeah.
Yep. And then they acknowledged that was supposed to be Maeve's death blow that she used to save them all. And then Hussar says that power is no blessing. And it's like Fenris says, tell that to your soldiers because she just saved all of them.
Right. Yeah. No, I do like that Hussar. Hussar, I kind of like the commentary that Hussar brings and just kind of like, I don't know, is looking from the outside and just makes these little quips about like, you know, like, oh, there's a lead actually right there. All of that. It's so funny.
Yeah. And then one of the quotes I have annotated too is from Aelin's point of view as like she's unleashing this 3 months worth of power, and it says for 3 months she had sung to the darkness and the flame, and they had sung back.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that, like that writing. This is why I love Sarah's writing. It's just like
it's poetic.
It does something.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that battle. Then we get Dorian going into Morath to get the third and final word key.
Yes. I love so much. Oh yeah, we should look at the comments.
Sorry, yeah. Thank goodness Rowan was able to cool the steam though. Yeah. I mean that was good too, but like
definitely.
Yeah. I'm at a bar. Needed to pop in. Hi, Lachlan. Love that she was making her descent into her power for so long, like even while she was being tortured, literally for 3 months. And it's like some of the magic wielders, I feel like if they tunnel into their power for like a week, it's like an insane amount of magic. So the fact that she was doing it for months, just
Yep.
So cool.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yep.
But yeah, Dorian going into Morath.
Yes. Yeah. So he, who is it? He summons Kaltain, right? And that's who tells him you should go to Morath. And that's where the third word stone is. Is that correct?
Yeah. The word key. Yeah.
So, which also I just loved seeing Kaltain again and just like, once again, bringing people back. And so Dorian starts to study one of kind of like the lowly witches because he's like, I'm going to shapeshift into her because people won't be missing her. And like, I obviously can't walk in there as myself. And so, he shapeshifts into this witch and Manon instantly knows that it's him. And I love
that scene
so much when Manon is like, because he's shorter in this other witch's body now. He's shorter than Manon. And I love when he says like he gets a thrill of being shorter than Manon and her yelling at him. I'm like, okay, in this whatever situationship that they are in, like Manon wears the pants because he's like, oh my god, it's kind of exciting that I'm shorter than her and she's talking down to me.
I love too that he's like, you know, because he's in that other form, that witch's form, and so he's like trying to play it cool, and she walks right past him, and then she whips her head around with her nostrils flared, and he's like,
I love. She's like, what the hell are you doing? Like,
I
yeah.
love it.
Oh, it's so good.
Like nostrils flared, like whips her head around. Like I can just picture
Yes.
it in my head, like her being like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yes, and then she says something like, "You should have picked someone prettier," or something like
Yeah.
that. And I was like, "Oh, well, I think she's pretty." Like, what?
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. I love their banter.
I love their banter. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we get Dorian doing his thing, right, in Morath.
Mhm.
He tricks Maeve kind of because he's been like trained his whole life to be a king, be like a like a courtier, whatever, like
Yep.
so he kind of plays Maeve a little bit here and is like, "Yeah, you could be my wife," like,
Yeah, it's a crazy that's just like he took such a risk there. Like and it
Yeah.
like and then they're like at night they're in the I don't think like they're sleeping in the same bed, but like he goes back to her room every night and like they
Yep.
talk and I'm just like, what is happening? Like
Yep.
this is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the fact that he does finally steal the third word key
Yep.
from a witch that it was like in her arm or something. It was like
She was
somebody
in
to
Erewhon's
replace.
bed.
Yeah. Um and then Maeve is like, "Oh, good job," and then tries to take it from him. And that whole scene where he's like, "Did you really think that I would be a willing slave again? Like,
Yeah.
you idiot." And like
Yes.
actually tricked her. And I'm like, Dorian,
I
like
love that. And I'm also like, Maeve, come on. Like, did you really like I just kept waiting for her to be like, okay, yeah, I've been playing you at the same time, like
yeah.
I'm surprised that she fell for that. Obviously, I'm very glad though. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It did feel a little easy
Yes.
for
Yeah.
Dorian.
Mhm.
But like I don't really care.
Oh yeah, no. It's
Like that
it's
didn't bother me. I know some people were like, he just waltzed in like this. It's this big deal. It's Erewhon's final, like only word key that he has left. You'd think he'd be more protective of it. Dorian's just like, I got it. I
yeah, but
tricked
that's
like
also it's kind of like and we see this in other books too. It's like it's the ego of the villain. Like they think they're untouchable. So I think it
yeah,
like makes sense that Erewhon's like, oh, I'm good. Like no one can touch me. There's no way that anyone's gonna walk in here and steal it. So yeah, I'm gonna be, kind of cavalier about it. So yeah.
yeah. And same with Maeve too. Like she's like, I'm like this cunning 500-year-old witch or older. She's millennia old. And
Yes. Yeah.
kind of thinks like nobody's gonna best me. And then little Dorian walks in with his little swagger and is like, "Bitch, you
Little
thought."
mouse, and then he's like a bug at some point too. And it's like,
Yep.
how is this happening? I love it though.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, it was a little easy, but like there's so much else going on in the story that I'm like, that's fine.
Yes, and there's like a common thread throughout this book where and the whole series too, but like this book specifically where Dorian wants to be good enough for his friends, he wants to be a worthy person, a worthy
Yeah.
king. And so
Yeah.
I think it was good for him to have that moment where no one is assisting him and he's like because he's so integral obviously in the end of the plot where like he gets the final word key, like that's huge.
Yeah.
So that was good for his confidence. He needed that boost.
Yeah.
Literally, I love it.
It's
I
so
love
funny.
it. He's like the only one too, because like I just don't see Rowan or Lorcan saying something like that, or Caleb
Right.
would say something like that. But I love that Dorian's like, ooh, I kind of like being smaller than you. Like this is fun. Dorian is the little spoon in that when they are
Yes.
100%.
Manon and Dorian is my favorite relationship in the whole series. I need more of them. Yeah, I really like too how Manon like admits her feelings for him in this one because like again, she's this whole book like I have no heart to like whatever and like they develop their relationship in Empire of Storms and honestly with everything that both of them have been through, they're like perfect for each other. I love it.
Yeah, I think like if we were ever to get future Throne of Glass books, I think it would be Manon and Dorian's like story, just because, and we'll talk about how it ends, but like just how it's left is very kind of like, ooh, maybe something could happen here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love them. Okay, so the final battle at Orin. So the big battle before, Aelin arrives. So Manon convinces all the Crokins to come to the aid, right? She's got the crown. They acknowledge her as their queen. And they do that like whole powerful, like your queen summons you to war. Will you fly? And like passes it on, which is awesome. We get the scene where Petra comes to save Blue Blood comes to save Manon and Abraxos because Iskra her bull, her wyvern has got Abraxas by the throat, and like, oh, the scene where Manon is like, I love you, and is gonna jump off his back and like fight to save him, because she's like, if I don't have Abraxas by my side, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like,
And it's
actually
so
though, I love him.
I love Abraxos so much. And I love, like, that's a really intense scene because they just keep talking about how, like, they're dive bombing and they're watching it and they're just like, she's not going to be able to, you know, break or anything. Like, it's a very intense scene. I was very nervous reading that.
And then Petra comes in, and then we get that whole scene where Petra is attacking Iskra, and how like they go all the way up and then they're going down, and Petra's like circling the other wyvern so he can't open his wings. And Manon makes the comment of like, she's been training for this. Like, she's been waiting for this moment for what Iskra did. I think it was in Queen of Shadows, or was it Air of Fire even? Whenever Petra's
Fire.
It might have been Air of Fire. So it's been a while, where Keely, Petra's wyvern, was killed because of Iskra. So
yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Great scene.
And then we get, I don't even want to read this scene because it's gonna make me cry. I just know it. So we get the 13's sacrifice.
Oh my god. This was when I fully started like actually crying while reading the book. And it's like the way it builds up to it, and it's Astron's behavior as she's just kind of smiling. I think she kisses Manon on the forehead or something like that.
Yep.
Oh god.
Yeah, so we get this moment. So Manon is like, I need another wyvern. I got to go out there. We've got to take down this witch tower. We've done this. Like, me and my 13, we've got this. And it's the moment where like a pit was in my stomach the first time I read this. It was Manon saying all this things to her 13, and it says, but they all looked at one another like they'd had some unspoken conversation and agreement. And right at that moment, I'm like, no!
They're so at peace with it. And I'm like, no.
It says, Sorrel clasped Manon's shoulder as she passed and then climbed onto her wyvern's back. So that was like her final goodbye. It was just like her touching her back. And then her second, her cousin, her friend, smiled, eyes bright as the stars. Live, Manon. Manon blinked. Astrid smiled wider, kissed Manon's brow, and whispered again, live. And then punched her in the stomach.
Going out. Yeah.
Gets on her mare and says, bring our people home, Manon. And Manon like can't get up because of that fucking punch to the stomach, as if that's not like the actual embodiment of what she's about to feel.
Yeah.
And they go and not just take out the witch tower, but they all do the yielding.
Yep.
Oh my god, it's so, and like Manon literally has to stand there and watch them get taken down. Like, they get cut down one by one until Astrid makes it to the tower. And I think she like throws a dagger, fires an arrow or something, and takes out the witch that was going to go into the witch tower. And then one by one, they all erupt into the yielding.
Yep. Yeah. It's like one of the most impactful scenes in the entire series.
Yeah.
Because we've been with them for so long, and we've watched like the dynamics of the 13 change and like go through stuff, and oh my god.
And you see how loyal they are to Manon, and how like
how much they believe
in her. Yeah, there's that scene where they say, like, are you loyal to me or are you loyal to the matron? And they're like, we serve you, wing leader. Like, it's just, that scene.
And is this where does Manon like kind of in her inner monologue kind of talks about how like Astrid is going to be reunited with like that
the hunter and her witchling?
Yes. Oh yeah. God. I love that like gets brought up multiple times after we hear about the story. Like, oh god.
And it's the I'm gonna cry. It's the scene like right after that, right? The chapter ends with them going through the yielding, and then the next chapter starts in Manon's point of view, and it just says, Manon sank to the stones of the castle battlements and did not move for a long, long while. Just like, I can't imagine, because she's been with them for like 100 years.
Yeah.
And like how loyal and how far they've come from the moment like we meet them on page in Air of Fire. like how far they've come since then, and then to have to literally stand there and watch them all sacrifice themselves for her, for their people. It's just like, oh, just gets to me.
Yeah. It's a sad ending, but it's also just like, yeah, it's really powerful. It represents kind of how much they love her and that she is like a true leader too, because she's kind of had issues with that. So yeah.
Yep. And then we end that chapter then with Glennis talking to Manon and saying, "Be the bridge, be the light. When iron melts, when flowers spring from fields of blood, let the land be witness and return home." And that's like the prophecy of the witches, like, and the chapter ends with, "And far away across the snow-covered mountains, on a barren plain before the ruins of a once great city, a flower began to bloom." And like that's the moment that you're like, the prophecy, like they can go home finally, what they've been fighting for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Then we get Aelin and Dorian coming together. They've got all 3 word keys now, and they're going to try to forge the new lock so that Erwin can, first of all, be banished home, but then so he can't bring his brothers to this world.
Huge scene. Huge scene.
Yeah. So I just want to mention it because I mention it like every single time in every single live show, but on page 775, right before they go to this like other realm basically to forge this new lock, Aelin does the iconic line of, "My name is Aelin Ash River Galathinius, and I will not be afraid."
Yes.
And it's like, I can't move past that. Like,
no, it's
that is from Assassin's Blade.
Yeah. I love that because she just continues to honor Sam throughout the series. And how and he is so like, he's been a part of her character growth too. And I love that.
And I literally can't imagine not having that backstory of where that came from. Because, like, yes, she said it in Throne of Glass, but like, you don't get why she says it if you don't read Assassin's Blade.
Yeah, it doesn't have an impact at all, I think.
Yeah, it just hits so much more knowing that that's where that came from. Oh, I love it. So we get to this like other realm, I'll call it. I don't really know. It's like kind of in their mind, kind of somewhere else, because their physical bodies are still like with Rowan and Chaol and stuff, but they're like blank faced. And that whole scene is them trying to together give up only half of their power so that neither of them will have to die. And it's not working. Dorian can see that it's not going to work. It's going to drain both of them. And then Dorian's dad, the King of Aderlin, comes back and is like, "I can pay this price. Because this bloodline flows in my veins as well." And Aelin's like, "All right, Nameless is my price. Let's do this," and shoves Dorian out.
Of course she does, because she was planning on doing that anyway, right?
Yeah, I think if she said like if it wasn't gonna work where they would only have to give up half of their powers, she was gonna shove him back and do it herself. Like
like if it
she was hoping it would work, but if it didn't, it was gonna be her. And poor Dorian. Like, can you imagine that helpless feeling too of like trying to get back there?
No, this when it was really like impactful to me when he comes to and he sees Chaol and Rowan and he's like, "No," and then he tries to grab her like lifeless,
grab her hand again,
and she's just standing there and he's like, "No," like trying to get back with her, and he can't. And oh god.
And then then we get this whole scene with Dorian's dad evaporates. He gives up everything that he is. His whole immortal soul is gone now to help forge this new lock, and every ounce of Aelin's power is taken. And then the gods come and they're like, "We're holding up our end of the bargain, like we'll take Erewhon back or whatever." And she says, I would like to make a bargain with you. And she says, "Leave Erewhon. My friends can defeat him. I'm confident of that. But let Elena have her afterlife." This part pissed me off. So the gods say, "Nah," and they annihilate Elena. Deanna just like
Yeah.
Disintegrates Aelin. It's like, she's gone. That's it. She's like, nope, that's it. That's the end. Don't care.
Yeah.
And then she goes like, just for the audacity of even asking, now we're not taking Erewhon back. Like,
yeah. I thought
so they get nothing.
no, that was so completely unfair, and the sacrifice that Aelin, potentially had to make. It's just like, really? You guys are gonna be like, they're so petty. These gods are so petty. Yeah.
That part just, I was like, really? That we get nothing from that then. Aelin has given up every ounce of her immeasurable power. And for what?
Yeah.
Like, at the very least, to have Elena have her afterlife, like, that is a very Aelin thing to ask for.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say that's so dumb. Why would she make that bargain in the first place? Yeah, I get it, because
like
that's
she's like that. But yeah,
like
I
that.
do agree that I'm like, Aelin, just don't.
Like, just don't. Just let him. Yeah.
Like, is it Brannon and Elena, or is it Gavin? Yeah, Brannon.
Well, Brannon is Elena's dad.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But no, like I understand, like, they want to be together, whatever. But it's like, okay, it's been too long. This is too much, and they've kind of screwed you and Dorian over because of this prophecy. So just like, they need to kind of pay their due now. Yeah.
I get why Aelin did it, but at the same time, I'm like, Elena, you kind of deserve this.
Yes, she
like, I don't feel bad for her at all.
Yeah, she cursed her, basically.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't feel bad for you, but at the same time, I'm like, I want Aelin to get something out of this. She had to yield everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then we get this moment with Mala, Firebringer, where it says she held out her hand. In it lay a kernel of white-hot power, a fallen star. Take it, one last gift to my bloodline, for what you offered on her behalf, for fighting for her, for all of them. So she gets this little spark of firepower back, nowhere near the amount of what she had before. But she still does have magic. Mm-hmm. And then in perfect Aelin fashion, she's like, you know what? Fuck all of y'all. I'm going to open up another portal, and I'm going to let these beasts from hell kill you, because you guys suck.
No, I'm just like, okay, like, fair enough, Aelin. I get it.
Yeah. I wanted them to get punished for that. So when that moment happens, I was like, that is such a bitchy thing to do, to be like, no, forget it. I'm not doing a bargain. I'm like,
huge
you bitch. So then when they got like, and it's just funny because like Mala was like, go ahead. It's fair enough.
Yeah.
And then it says she does the thing or whatever, and then she just like hears the screams of the gods as she seals them in.
I know. I kind of love that. It feels like
it's so savage.
Like I like it. Yeah.
I like it. And then we get the scene of Aelin falling through multiple worlds. And this is so important because it gives weight to the theory that Sarah J. Maas is creating a multiverse, that there's multiple worlds layered on top of each other. She mentions it several times. And you just see this scene, and I can just picture it, like, her just, like, falling through these different worlds, these different layers.
Yeah, that's
and
so cool.
So she's falling through all these worlds. She's not slowing down. Eventually, she slows down, and she can, like, smell the pine and snow of her world. And so she's like, that's home. Like, that's where Rowan is. And it says she threw herself into it, grabbed the tether, and bellowed as she hauled herself toward it, down it. Home, home, home. It was not the end. She was not finished.
Yeah.
Willed herself, willed the world to halt, just as the word gate slammed shut with a thunderous crack, all other doors with it, and Aelin plunged back into her body.
Yeah.
So Rowan had been tattooing her like the night before or something of their story, and put word marks into her tattoo so that she could, it was like a map home, so that she could find her way back home. And so she does. She gets back home. It was kind of scary for a second there.
Yes. Oh my God.
She gets back, but she doesn't have her power. She has like an ordinary amount of power, is what they say.
Yes. And she's lost her humanity now too.
Yes, she doesn't have her human form anymore. She's just straight Fae. Yep. Yeah. And it says too on the end of that chapter, it says she held out her other hand, and the kernel of fire sputtered to life within it, an ordinary gift, a firebringer no more, but Aelin all the same. So this part, I was like waiting for the rest of the book. I'm like, that's not real.
Yeah.
Like the first time I read it, I'm like, no, she's got to have these powers. Like,
Yeah.
you can't not have it.
Yeah. This is definitely like, it's my least favorite part of the story. I really wish that she didn't lose her powers.
Yep.
I just don't think it was necessary. Like, yeah, it's just,
She says, it's gone, the power, only an ember remains. And I'm like, I understand why Sarah did that, because she has mentioned throughout the series the weight of that power and like how much pressure was on Aelin and how like she had the might of the god within her. Like she was literally like a god.
She says it in the book. I
am a god. And like how much pressure that would have, how scared she was of power as a child. But to me, I really felt like she grew to love her power. Yeah. Especially with Heir of Fire, like when she was training with it, like you could see her move from this like scared, like I don't want to touch my power because it's too much, and then like move to loving it, I thought. But it is mentioned several times like how much like weight that pressure is. So I get it, but like at the same time, I'm like, I wanted her to be like the best of the best. Like I loved that about her.
Right. Well, that's, and yeah, so I do think like, you know, clearly SJM planned for Aelin to lose her power because, you know, she planted those seeds of like, yeah, I don't know, there's so much pressure, but I do feel like she grew, and we could have gone down a path of she grew to love it, she grew to control it and contain it. And, you know, because Aelin is such a badass and she has like this cockiness to her, and she's so like devoted to her people, that for me, it would make sense for her to keep her power because she would want to like people, and she wants to be like all powerful. You know, she's not somebody who shies away from like being the best of the best. So yeah, I really wish she didn't, but I understand why it happened.
Yeah, that is my like main critique of the series as a whole, is that I'm just like so annoyed that she lost like her epic power.
Yep.
But is what it is. So then we get the Lord of the North coming with the little folk.
I love the little folk. Can I just say too? I love the little folk so much. I don't know. I've never seen like fan art of them. How do you imagine them? Because I'm imagining them as Smurfs, and I don't know if that's accurate.
Like yeah, so little hats. They're described. They're like physically not described very often. It just talks about like how they're like they have little feet marks and like how they have these big eyes that stare at them. So have you seen the movie?
They say that they're like green. Like I think she says they're green. Like they have green skin.
Yeah, like tree spirits almost.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you seen the movie Maleficent?
No.
So I'll send you fan art after this. Anybody who's watching. So yeah, there's just like I don't even know what you would type in, like just like Maleficent, like the creatures of the Moor. If you've seen that movie, there's like little pixies and fairies and like flower people, and there's like these little mud monsters. That's just kind of what I picture the little folk as, like just tiny little magical people.
Right. Yeah. Just little sprites or something. Yeah.
Like
Smurfs for some reason. Just marching.
No, that's like not a bad way to picture them. Like I mean. Like kind of Smurf like. Not Papa Smurf.
I don't think of like literal Smurfs, but just kind of Smurf like creatures. And I don't know why I imagine them with little hats. They probably don't have hats on, but you know.
Yeah. But yeah, so that part is like so epic too, because like just the fact of like how everybody responds to it too, like Aelin stumbled a step and like, you know, Rowan's breath caught and stuff like that. Because the Lord of the North comes and all around him, the little folk, and they say, Heir of Brannon, we're here to like take you home. And she's like, how though? Like there's this bad storm going on and everything. And they're like, we got you, bestie. Like, don't worry about it.
They're like, we've cleared a path. We're fine.
Yeah, they're like, don't worry about it.
We got dinner on the way. Like, it's all good.
Yeah. And I love the fact too that, again, the Lord of the North and the little folk have helped Aelin Throne of Glass on. Like,
I know.
they've made those appearances.
I love the scene in Throne of Glass where she like sees the footprints and she like quickly like dusts them
Covers
away.
them up.
Because we have no idea what that means at that point
Yep.
when you're reading the books. And I just remembered that so vividly when I read it for the first time. I was like, what was that? Like, what was that
Yeah.
about? And then when it gets mentioned, I'm like, oh, they love her. They're like her biggest fans. Like
Yep. And they like make a flower crown for her and leave it in her tent and stuff. And they make like a little hawk out of feathers and stuff for Rowan, and he keeps it.
So cute. I love that. Yeah.
I love that. But yeah, they talk about too how she's like the fairy queen of the West. Yes. And like she's the heir of Brandon, so she's not just like the queen of Terrasen, but she's like the queen of the Fae on this side of the world, which is like
I love that too. Her. Yeah.
So then we get Gavriel's sacrifice. So we kind of had this build up. I feel like the 13 and Gavriel are like the two deaths of the series. Like she's not one to kill off any of the mains, I feel like. So I was worried that Dorian was going to be the one to sacrifice himself to the lock, and he was going to be deadsies. Like I thought for sure.
For the first time, you were like, "Oh, Dorian's gonna."
Yeah, I thought for sure when it was like it could be Aelin or it could be Dorian. I'm like, I just can't see Sarah killing off the main character of the series after everything we've been through. So I was so certain it was going to be Dorian.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And she was like, "I'm not going to choose either."
Yeah, she's like, "Nope."
And I was like, you know what? I'm actually okay with that.
He's like, I'm just gonna double kill Dorian's dad, basically.
Yeah.
Wipe him from existence from this world and any other.
Yep, that's it. So yeah, that the Gavriel scene, it was emotional, but not as emotional as like the 13, I feel like.
It was just like sweet, and I appreciate that. But yeah, it wasn't as tied to Gavriel.
Yeah, I was sad, but I think when I first read it, I like shed a few tears, but I didn't like sob like I did with the 13. But this time I had tears in my eyes, but I didn't like the tear.
Right.
Because it's sad. I mean, it is sad. Like this whole from the moment he finds out that Aedion is his son, and Aedion's like, I want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Gavriel is just doing like whatever he can to make this connection, and he ends up sacrificing himself to save his son, basically. So there's that. But yeah, I know that the series, Sarah, got a lot of criticism for not like being willing to kill off like one of the mains, but I'm like, she's a happy ending gal. Like,
and she says that she's self-admitted. She's like, I like happily ever afters. You're not gonna get like I think that we can safely say SJM will probably never kill off a main character in a series. Like that's just not how she does things. So
she said, I think it was maybe right after Queen of Shadows came out, she said like the only one that's like safe is Fleetfoot, the dog. She's like, I'll never kill off Fleetfoot. So you can at least rest easy in that.
That'd be unforgivable.
But then after she finished Kingdom of Ash, she's like, you kind of see how I am now. Like she's like, I've just been through so much with these characters. I'm not willing to kill them.
But she's willing to make them go through hell though, which I like. Like it's not like Aelin has had like an easy time. You know, she was freaking locked in an iron coffin and
tortured for months.
Yeah. So we'll put them through it, but yeah.
I would have liked it more if a main character had died. Don't hate me. I get it. I'm glad that they didn't, because like I don't want them to die, but I get that feeling of like you want someone important to be sacrificed so that it hits different, you know?
Yeah. Because the odds too are so like someone's gotta go.
Stacked,
Yeah.
If you're telling me there's a big great war and the stakes are so high, at least one main character should die, in my opinion. Yeah. I get it. I'm glad they didn't, but I get it.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't, but I think that's fair for sure.
Yeah. I was so upset because he did not need to do that. Gavriel, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because I was a little confused about the mechanics, and I was like, I'll figure it out on my next reread. But did he have to was Aedion willing to die if he did not do that?
The thing was they were trying to close the gates, and the army was like rushing. The other opposing army was like rushing to those gates, and he went out and like put a shield up with his magic to hold them back.
Okay.
And then he was going to like go in with Aedion or whatever, but the army was getting too close or something. So the way that it was written made it seem like he couldn't, if he had dropped the shield and tried to run back, they wouldn't have been able to close the gate. But did he? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the mechanics of that are kind of like, you know, because I was kind of like, why isn't he just like running in the gate really quick? You know, he's magical. Like, why isn't he like, you know, projecting the shield like over the gate or something? Like,
Aedion says that too. He's like, Gavriel could have stayed and pushed his shield back long enough for them to shut the gates. He could have remained here.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a close.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think because he was the only one that had magic at the time that he was trying to hold the army back while everyone else shut the gate.
Yeah, I think that they would not, even if there were people helping, they wouldn't have had the time to shut the gate. And so
before the army was upon them.
We need like a 5-second buffer, basically. And he's like, okay, cool, I'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. Okay, so we get then the face-off, the final face-off between Aelin against Maeve and Erewhon. And first of all, I love that she like plays mind games with them to like pit them against each other. I'm like, I love
she's
it.
a staggering assassin. She's like, okay, I'm gonna mess with you guys, you know.
Yep. And the fact that like it worked too. Yeah. Like
I see the doubt in Erewhon's eyes, and
I love it. But yeah, we get this iconic line from Aelin where it says, Maeve says, "There are no gods left to watch, I'm afraid, and there are no gods left to help you now, Aelin Galathinius." Aelin smiled, and Goldrin burned brighter. "I am a god."
Yes.
Oh, yes, you are. I love it.
I do too.
So yeah, we get this face off between them, and Aelin is basically has imbued Goldrin and her shield with her firepower before she went to forge the lock. So they're like magically gifted weapons.
Yeah.
And then she still does have that like bit of firepower, an ordinary amount that she's like using to deflect against them. And she's like trying to keep that swagger, that arrogance, so they don't even get a whiff that she doesn't have the might of her magic behind her.
Yeah.
And eventually we get them split up. So, excuse me. So Erewhon is like, sees the healers and whatever, and he's like, all right, she better not be telling the truth about Maeve, having all this plan of getting rid of Erewhon after Aelin's gone or whatever. And so Erewhon goes to go find the healers and mainly goes to find Irene, who is like the one he's really the most scared of.
Yep.
And so we have the two separate evils basically getting battled. So we have Aelin and Maeve, and then we have Irene and Erewhon. So we get Irene defeating Erewhon first.
Yep.
So she uses her healing magic, and like her hope and stuff, her hope for a better future, for a free world. And again, was it a little easy? Kind of. Yeah. Like it just there wasn't a ton of like build up to that moment, I feel like. Like we've been dreading Erewhon from the moment he was introduced on page, and how he's like this big, awful, big baddie.
And terrible, like
right. And he has escaped. He's been, he's this huge evil in the world. And then he goes, and Irene is just like, you're done.
Yeah. It is a little, it's a little convenient. Yeah. I mean,
again, like, I don't mind it. Like, no, I'm not complaining, but
I'm not mad. I think if somebody were to critique that, I'd be like, fair enough. Like I'm not going to fight you on that, basically.
Yeah, there could have been a bit more of a struggle, but it was really like from the moment he walked in the door and was like, "Hello, healer," she was like, sit down, bitch. And that was it.
And it was Dorian at first pretending to be her, right? At first?
Yeah, well, Dorian, because Dorian has shape-shifted.
Yeah.
And then they kind of teamed up, I think, like
yes,
Aelin and Dorian together.
Something else I also wanted to note, when Dorian is with Maeve makes the comment that Dorian's power is second to none, not even
Aelin.
So Dorian is the most powerful person in the Throne of Glass series.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we've like kind of concluded, which is crazy, and I feel like is not talked enough about.
Yeah, I didn't put that in my notes, but I definitely tabbed that because I was like,
it was so just like, oh yeah, he's
just the way that she said it, because like they've always talked about how powerful Dorian is and how he has this raw magic, but to say like you're the most powerful, second to none, not even Aelin, and it's like we've built up how powerful Aelin is, and we know that she has like the might of a god, like it's been built up, but like yeah, you're right, like people don't talk about that. And
Dorian is the most powerful
he has his magic all the way till the end. He never gets rid of any of it.
Yeah, so he's still living out there as King of Aderlin and also the most powerful person on
ever
the planet. Like I don't know. Like I feel like that's a huge thing to say, and Maeve is kind of the only one who acknowledges it. And I think it would have been interesting if like Aelin and everyone else had kind of acknowledged that too, like just for, kind of just in that. But yeah, Dorian is the most powerful person, which is cool.
Also, the fact that he doesn't have any parameters to his magic. Like Aelin's magic is fire. That's it. She is the most powerful fire wielder ever. Yeah. But Dorian can shapeshift. He's got ice magic. He's got phantom hands. Like he's just got everything.
Yeah. Does he have shadows? Shadow magic?
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I remember something. I feel like he kind of can do whatever he wants.
Right.
Like, yeah.
This is a good question.
I think no.
I think no.
He asks, what's his things? What is it? Damaris?
Yeah.
Okay. He asks Damaris, because I think throughout the book, he's kind of like, oh, I don't know what I am. Like, I'm kind of nervous to find out. He asks Damaris if he is human, and it glows and warms up.
Yeah.
So he's not, he's not immortal. He will grow and age like a regular human, which is weird because he's so magical.
Right.
But there's like, there's fan art that I've seen of like him really, really old and like Manon, people just creating in their head. This isn't like canon or anything. It's just like there's Dorian is really old, or like Manon visiting his grave. Because he is not immortal. Like he is just a regular human, but is the most powerful being on the planet.
Right.
I don't get it, but yeah.
Spin-off series is needed ASAP. Dorian and Manon need more pages. Dorian's power is so vast. I want it explored more.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so we get Erewhon defeated. No fuss, no muss. Just, quick and easy.
Quick 5 minutes.
Just like, and then we get the reveal that he stole the king's name.
Yep.
And it was Dorian.
Yeah, that was sweet. Yeah.
And then we get the face-off still with Maeve and Aelin, and basically like her cadre, her crew is like coming to her backup because obviously she doesn't have all of her magic. And they get ensnared in Maeve's mind games where they're all seeing like their worst nightmares play out. Oh, that I know it only lasted for like a few pages, but I was like, I don't want to read this.
I know. Yeah.
I want to see them go through this.
Yeah.
So we go through all that, and then Aelin like fights that, like breaks out of it, and Maeve is like, how did you do that? Like, there's no way. And then she gets to finally defeat Maeve. She uses her sword, stabs her through the heart, and then you get like Maeve like losing that fae piece of her where it's like you see like the evil creature beneath basically. And they kill Maeve. Dunsies.
Yep. Yay.
All good. Both baddies gone, just like that.
And they were all done by dinner time, and yeah.
I will say again, I'm like, I feel like I'm making it sound like maybe I don't like this because I critiqued the fact that Aelin lost all her magic and how like some of the stuff was a little easy. But it also bothered me slightly when the city started chanting Irene, Irene, Irene. I'm like, I mean, yeah, she did fight Erewhon and stuff, but like,
but also Aelin. Yeah,
what about Aelin?
I think it's totally fair. I love this book. It's 5 stars. This series is my favorite series of all time, but I think you can still critique it. Like that doesn't,
Yeah.
like it's like, yeah, there are issues within the book, but I still love it, but like I can critique it even if I love it. And yeah, that I was just like, why not Irene and Aelin?
Yeah.
Throw that in there a little bit, It
also just feels like we followed Aelin from she was 16 years old, still an assassin. Like we've had this build up to her like being the one to do this final battle, and then Irene comes in one book, and all of a sudden she's like the bad bitch of the book, and I'm like,
oh yeah, I imagine Aelin is like, she's walking in and she's like, okay, I'm finally home. Like I get to see my people. I'm gonna be the queen. This is great.
Yeah.
She like walks in already, and then she just hears Irene, and she's like trying to force a smile, like girl power. Yeah, good job, Irene. Thanks, Jill, for bringing her into the story. I guess Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm glad that Irene, like I'm happy about it, but like at the same time, I'm like. Yeah. We just met her a book ago. She didn't need all that.
I know. It would have been more impactful if we either were with her longer or if it was like Lysandra and Manon who had defeated Erewhon.
Yes.
We at least would have been like, okay, yeah, we've been with them since the beginning. This is very satisfying.
Yeah. But either way, they were defeated. I'm glad that it went down that it did. And it was still an epic finale to it. Like it wasn't too easy. Like there was still some, fighting and stuff.
It took a while to get there. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And then we get the after that we get this like 50 pages, 60 pages of wrapping up storylines.
Yeah.
Which like I cried throughout this entire like 50, 60 pages.
Yeah. This is the most like raw like part of the book. Like it's bad. It is as bad as the beginning of the book in a different way.
Yeah.
Like, it hurts.
Yeah, because it's all the goodbyes. It's all the final moments with these characters.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the scene with Manon and Dorian, and we get the classic "Hello, Princeling." Hello, Princeling. And then the sad moment where he's scanning the skies for the 13, and she says, "You will not find them."
Yeah.
We get the moment with Darrow. So this whole time, right, Evangeline is with Darrow, and he's like talking to her and realizing like that he's kind of been a dickbag.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking to Aelin, and he's like, why did you face Erewhon and Maeve by yourself with no magic, like with not having the same amount of magic? And she says, Terrasen is my home. It was the only answer in her heart. And he smiled just a bit, and he says, so it is. Welcome, your majesty. And because he was like the main one fighting her, and I'm like,
the grunt. Evangeline was like, she was integral in that as well. She had her little role.
Yeah, and I love this part too because it says, but Aelin looked to Evangeline, the girl still beaming. Win me back my kingdom, Evangeline. Her order to the girl all those months ago. She didn't know how Evangeline had done it, how she had changed this old lord before them. Yet there was Darrow, gesturing to the gates, to the castle behind him. Yep. Evangeline winked at Aelin as if in confirmation. I'm like, this so little girl.
I love her. I love her so much.
I love it. And then we get Aelin's coronation, finally. So she's being crowned the Queen of Terrasen, even though she's the Queen of our hearts. Like, she's officially the Queen now. And we get this incredible scene of her walking down to get crowned, saying her vows to Terrasen, basically saying that she'll protect it with her life. I'm trying to find it here. And it's just like, it's one of those things, like we've been building up to it from the first book.
Yep.
And so she says her vows and stuff. And then it says, Rise, Aelin, Ash River, Whitethorn, Galathinius, Queen of Terrasen, long may she reign, and then everybody's cheering, Hail, Aelin, Queen of Terrasen.
Yeah.
Which just like, it just gives you chills.
Yes, I love that scene so much. Like, I can picture it so well, and I love all the mentions of everyone who's sitting there and watching. Like, Manana's wearing her crown and watching.
Yep.
Evangeline and Lysandra, like, they walk down the aisle before her, kind of like bridesmaids, like before it comes out. It's very similar to a wedding. She's kind of like committing herself to Terrasen, basically.
Marrying her country.
Exactly. And I love it. And then I forget who says it, if it's Fenris or Lorcan makes a thing about like, oh, is this going to be over soon or something like that.
Yeah.
Makes a joke about like, gay, like this is taking
I think it's Fenris because he's like, when's lunch or something like
that.
Yeah. Something about food.
I love that.
But yeah, so that part is awesome because then we get the little folk coming in with Mab's crown, and like she's like, yes, I will serve you, the Fairy Queen of the West. So Queen of Terrasen and the Fairy Queen of the West. And it says she burned bright as a star. I just love that. And then we get again one of these nods back to the first book where it says Aelin nodded to the guards at the castle gates. They opened at last, and the roar from the gathered crowds was loud enough to rattle the stars.
Yes, rattle the stars. That's my favorite quote in the whole series is the
rattle the stars. I love it. And then we get, so this scene I think is the one that really sticks in my head because there's a piece of fan art that just immediately comes to mind. And it's the goodbye between Selena, Aelin, Dorian, and this is like, the three who started the series, like from the beginning, how far they've come from where they were.
Yep. This is, for me, this is hard, but for me, this is top 3 favorite scenes in the entire series. This affected, the first time I read it, I reread that like little, it's just like a small little paragraph.
It's like a page.
I reread it over and over again because and like, I think it's noted that like Irene and Rowan step back, and they're just kind of like
this moment.
It started with the 3 of them. And you think back to, Throne of Glass when they're like, oh, you're going to be, the king's champion, and Kale bringing her in from the salt mines. And it's just like, look at where we've come, and all of these cast of characters wouldn't be here if the 3 of you hadn't met and
hadn't come together.
Yeah, it is. It's my favorite. Like, I
have goosebumps all the way down my legs.
So good. It is such. I'm so glad that Sarah J. Maas chose to highlight that, because it's like, this, like, I know some people call them like the Golden Trio and stuff in the series. Like that is them. They started this whole thing back in Otterlin, which is so crazy.
It's just, and that goodbye too is like, they're not together. Like, Aelin staying in Terrasen, Dorian's going back to Otterlin to Rifthold, and like Kale is going to be leaving as well. So it's just like, it's not the crew together anymore how it has been. And Dorian says, together we'll build this world together. And like, Aelin's kind of tearing up, and Kale's like, we'll still see each other again. Like, everybody relax. Like, I don't like feelings.
Yeah. Well, because Kale is he like the right hand to the king? Is he going?
He's the hand of the king.
Something about like going to Rifthold. So I think that they will eventually be there. So he'll get with Dorian, I think. And those two are like, they need to be together.
The romance.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that, I mean, again, like you said, I'm just glad that she chose to highlight that scene because it's a big moment.
Started it all. Yeah.
And then we have the last line of the chapter before we get like the epilogue, pretty much, which is, again, it's a nod back to the first book, back to Throne of Glass. So the last line on page 977, Rowan is saying, like, can I tell you a suggestion for what to rebuild first? And she smiles and says, tell me tomorrow.
Yes.
And then the last line in Throne of Glass is, tell me tomorrow.
Yeah, she says it to Kale, right?
Yeah, she says it to Kale.
Same last line of Kingdom of Ash. Yes, I love that she did that. That's so.
Kale says, do you want to know what your first mission will be? And she just says, tell me tomorrow. And so I love that. I love that she did that. And then of course we get like this epilogue, which is just titled A Better World. And it just hits, man. It just hits.
Yes.
And so it's just Aelin waking up and going outside, and that whole like last page, the whole last page, where she's talking about how she opens the curtains, goes outside, and like whispers Rowan, and they look out at this field, and it says, "For you, by your heart, all of it is for you." Aelin wept then, wept in joy that lit her heart, brighter than any magic could ever be. I'm gonna cry. For across every mountain, spread beneath the green canopy of Oakwald, carpeting the entire plain of Theralis, the king's flame was blooming.
Hannah.
I'm sorry. Like,
no, it's so emotional.
It's so emotional because like they talk about the king's flame throughout the series and how like when the country is back at peace, that's when the king's flame will bloom, and how it hasn't been there for ever since like magic disappeared, basically.
Yeah.
And so it's been so long, and just like for her to see that and see like that it was all worth it in the end.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful way to wrap it up.
It was a beautiful way to wrap it up. Like, I think more so than like ending the book on the tell me tomorrow, I think ending it this way with like all across the plain of Theralis, the king's flame was blooming. It just like gives you this feeling of hope.
Yep.
Not, there's work to be done tomorrow, but again, it still gives you that like the story is still going to continue even though we don't get to read it.
Yep, totally. I love it.
So I just love that. I know. I'm crying.
Oh, also, Kale and Irene are pregnant. Irene is pregnant.
Yeah.
By the way, I mean, yeah, that's
by the way.
Kale, so we like to keep, conversations on him at a minimum, but Irene is pregnant, which is super cool that she's doing all this while she's pregnant as well. So
yeah.
I thought of that a few minutes ago. I was like, oh shoot, she's pregnant. We didn't talk about that, but yeah.
High pitch mates.
Yep.
Sorry, I was not watching the comments. Did we get any news on Holden, Dorian's brother and mom, besides that they went away a few books ago? Nope.
We also, one of the funny like things in the fandom for Throne of Glass is Vaughn is just gone. And
they mention him too, like he's out there somewhere.
He's out there like doing God knows what. And it was just like, okay, so people are always like, Vaughn's gonna come back in one of the books, like in another series or something. Like, I just think that's funny.
I don't think he ever got on page at all. I think it was just mentions.
Yep, he was
like,
mentioned.
Oh, Vaughn off doing something else. And then like this whole time, like, where has he been?
Yeah.
Like I can just see him like up in the mountains sipping on tea, like wondering what my buddies are up to, like oblivious to all of it.
Or he like thought that they were all supposed to meet up, and he's like, God, like where are they? Like
yeah.
I
wonder if Aelin and Rowan will have all the children that he saw in his dream of her, like if that was a type of premonition. I choose to believe that it was.
Yeah, I like to think that they probably got pregnant like immediately after the event.
Yeah, and there's some really cute fan art out there. If you use Pinterest, I have an entire board of Throne of Glass fan art. So now that we've read all of it, if you're out there and you want to follow that board or whatever, because there's like 1,000 pins of fan art and stuff, there's some really cute fan art of like Aelin and Rowan with their children.
Yep.
It's pretty cute.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I like to think that they did, for sure.
Yeah, I like to, anytime like I get attached to characters like this and like the series or the book ends, like it doesn't end in my head. Like I still picture them having like this wonderful, amazing life. So it,
what they're up to.
Like
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts or things that I maybe missed? I know it was a lot, right? It's like 1,000-page book, so
it's a lot. You can't touch every single storyline in this book because it's so much, but yeah, it's wonderful. I love the finale so much.
Me too.
I feel like it gets like, some people don't like it, but I think it's so good.
I love it. And I like finishing this, I'm like, I'm not ready to leave this world and leave these characters. So reread.
No, I was thinking too. I was thinking about this last night. Like, when the new covers come out in February, maybe we should like do it then or something. Like, I don't know. I'm like trying to map out when do I get to be back in this world.
I
And
know.
I'm like, yeah.
It's like so stuck to my heart. Like I can never let it go.
I wanted to like reread the Assassin's Blade as soon as I finished this.
As soon as you finish, you're like,
what if
go.
I actually started a reread again? Like, you know.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna wait until we finish the read along, like reading all of her books, and then I think I'm just going to, for the rest of my life, be on a constant cycle of rereading every Sarah J. Maas book.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yep. Yeah. For real though, so many tattooable quotes. Like I have Fireheart, and then I have my ACOTAR one on my forearm, and those are the only SJM specific tattoos that I have. But I really want more. It's just they cost a lot. Like tattoos are not cheap. So I think it would be really cool to get Goldrin, and then along like the blade put the words "you do not yield."
Yes, that would be amazing.
That would be cool.
You should do that.
Yeah. So I'm not done with tattoos. I'm never done with tattoos. But yeah, I have so many ideas. Like I would love one with Rattle the Stars that has like stars around it.
Yep.
I just love it. I just need it. Good question. Not about Kingdom of Ash, but what is the schedule for ACOTAR? I've only read the first book years ago. Well, really? What a treat you are in for. I'm so excited for you. Yes. So Christina is just, she's really battling this reading slump. She has she's read every other SJM book, so these would all be rereads for her. So she wouldn't have to like, I mean, she wouldn't have to pay as close of attention as if she was reading it for the first time. So it's not like if she, you know, she knows what's going on in these books. So it would all be a reread for her. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we're still going to be able to go on schedule. We'll probably still take like a week off after this. And then we're going to hopefully be reading ACOTAR, the first book, in September. So I don't have any dates or anything yet. I still got to talk to Christina and see how that goes. But hopefully we can still stay on track. I'm so excited to reread ACOTAR. I can't wait.
I'm really excited because you guys have both read it. So I just feel like you can get super deep into talking about it and your thoughts and everything. So yeah, I can't wait.
I'm really excited. This is Emily. Is that your name? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to reread ACOTAR? Or are you just going to be like, I read it years ago, good enough? Like, are you actually going to reread it? Because you should reread it. But yeah, so many ideas.
Whatever end. I love that too.
Yeah. There is I don't know if you follow her on Instagram. Corinne Thorne, I think is her handle. When she got married, she did a Throne of Glass themed wedding, and like she had like banners that say "to whatever end," and like that. I think that was in her vows. Vows.
I got what you mean. In her vowels, I was like, yeah,
her vowels. A-I-O and U.
Yes, yeah. She put
she posted pictures of it too, and like, I think she had like trees and stuff. It was really pretty.
Oh, she's a TikToker.
Yeah, she does a lot of good cosplays and stuff. She's a huge SJM fan, so she does a lot of the main characters and stuff like that. So let me see if I can find one.
Really cool.
Her wedding is so beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Oh, and the green.
Yeah, she had like green and gold was her colors for her wedding, which is like Terrason's colors and stuff. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Anyways, awesome. Definitely rereading. Good. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to reread it. So I'll probably be posting that. I'll talk to Christina and see if we can get a date set. But as you have known throughout this read along, the dates sometimes don't always stick. So We'll post in the Discord, we'll post on our Instagrams, we'll post in our community feeds. So hopefully you won't miss an announcement for it. But September, we're hoping sometime in September will be our ACOTAR discussion. So awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, for coming along this epic journey with us. Thank you so much, Rachel, for joining me today so that we could talk about it. It was so much fun. And hopefully whenever Christina does read it, I know she started it, but she just wasn't able, I mean, it's a chunker, so like,
oh God, it's
hard
huge,
to read in a reading slump. But whenever she does finish it, like maybe right before we dive into ACOTAR, we'll do like a little mini, get her reactions on a couple things, because it is fun since it's her first time. So stay tuned for that. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I'm so happy that everybody was able to join and read this epic, awesome series. Yeah. And I will see you all next time for ACOTAR. Bye. Bye.